I got a rumor. You guys ready for a little hardware rumor?
Totally.
I bet Popey's not here because he knows and he doesn't want to get cornered on it. But rumor has it that Xiaomi, the big Chinese phone manufacturers, plan to release a svelte laptop that runs Linux. Manufacturing sources speaking to the Chinese site Digitimes, which has, by the way, a horrible track record, just in my personal opinion, says that the company is developing a 15-inch notebook with partners, Invitech, who also makes notebooks for HP, Acer, and Toshiba, and Foxconn, where the manufacturing happens for Apple's iPhones, iPads, and the PlayStation, and Xbox, and Nintendo. The Xiaomi laptop will reportedly feature a high price-performance ratio and the target retail price of around 470 US greenbacks. Xiaomi makes some good stuff. They're often known as an Apple ripoff. Are you familiar with their stuff, Wes?
I've enviously looked at some of theirs.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind a cheap Android phone that looks pretty.
This would be running not Android. This would be running Linux.
Yes, which would be even better.
Yeah, this would be full on, and you wouldn't have to worry about installing Linux.
I've never installed GNU/Linux
because it would come pre-installed with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now it could be a hoax though. They have had a hoax in the past, but I don't know. Anybody in the mumble room? You guys? Would anybody check this out? If you had a sub $500 nice looking laptop from Xiaomi, now it's not going to be like a super freedom respecting. It's probably going to be something that's more similar to a Chromebook. Anybody in the mumble room jumping on it?
I might give it a thought. What distro is it going to be running?
Well, the rumor is a custom version of Linux. Yeah.
It could mean a lot of things.
Yeah, exactly. But they say Digitimes is not always, as they point out on OMG Ubuntu, not always that reliable. I agree. But it could make sense. It could go into a nice lineup of products. So actually, I could see it. I could see this really happening. You know, it doesn't seem like a big jump if you're making cell phones to go into a portable laptop market that maybe includes a data chip, a decent CPU. You can install, maybe your own version of Linux on there. This could be kind of a neat thing.
Exciting to see a new hardware manufacturer, at least.
Yeah. Or you know what? Here's a way. I got another tip for you. This is your pro tip. You ready for this? I got pro tips. Actually, let me think about this. Maybe we should save this for the show because this is good. This is really good. Maybe we'll save it in the show. Now let's talk about it now. Let's talk about it right now. So,
such a tease.
Did you guys see that the Linux Foundation is giving away Chromebooks? The Linux Foundation is giving away Chromebooks when you sign up for some classes. So here's the detail. This is from our buddy over at IT World, Swamply. And how do you say his name? I met him at LinuxCon. Nice guy. He took a selfie with his huge Nexus 6. And now he's using an iPhone 5S to test Android wear. So Linux Foundation is giving away Chromebooks when you enroll in a training course in the month of September. What do you think about this? The Linux Foundation giving away Chromebooks.
Interesting.
Well, that's a bummer. I've only just enrolled for a course in like the 30th of August.
Well, Wimpy, does it make you uncomfortable they're giving away Chromebooks, or does that seem perfectly fine?
Well, I'm not surprised because the course that I've enrolled for says that in order to do the course where you have to be running Chromium or Google Chrome.
Oh, really?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Really? Huh. My first gut reaction was like I wasn't super comfortable because this doesn't feel like real Linux. But here's what made me sort of change my tune. I feel a little bit better when I read this. Jim Zimlin, he's the executive director of the Linux Foundation. He said, "We want students of Linux to experience a Linux desktop, and Chromebooks are a great way to do that, either through Google's Linux-based OS or by installing one of the many Linux distros available." All right, that's not bad.
No.
He says, "We hope this offer can provide the freedom Linux developers and IT professionals value and spark new ideas and discoveries as they embark on our Linux training program." So he's right there saying in the announcement that they're pretty much okay if you wipe Chrome OS off there and put any Linux distro on there. And that I'm all about. And by the way, they're not bad Chromebooks. They look like they're these Dell Chromebooks that we've talked about in the past. Yeah, the Dell Chromebook 11. The $299 Chromebook features probably an 11.6-inch display, 1.4 gigahertz processor, and 4 gigabytes of RAM. So there you go. That's not a bad giveaway.
No, and it could be pretty fun for the people get it to play with as they're learning Linux.
Yeah, absolutely. That could be a great way for people to get their start, and it's not a big investment for them to... See, that's actually really clever, because if it's not a huge expense, then maybe you're not so worried about trying out and seeing how things go, and if things don't go well, it was a Chromebook you got for free.
You don't mind if you erase your hard drive a couple times while you're installing it.
This is Linux Unplugged, episode 108 for September 1st, 2015. Welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show that's learning how to dump its black tank. Ugh. My name is Chris.
My name is Wes.
Hey, Wes. Hey, guess what? Big show today, Wes. I know. Surprise. So I've been pondering this question. I realized maybe I actually have the best group to possibly ask it to because I need to get an international perspective on this one. So we're going to bring in our virtual lug on one of our quandaries. Top law enforcement officials in the U.S. want backdoors into all types of encryption technology. This is something they've been debating since early in the year, and it's picking up a lot of steam. What would the ramifications be for open source, especially code that's developed outside the U.S., if the U.S. were to make this the land of the law? What responsibilities does open source have, distro makers, and things like that? So I want to talk about that and just pontificate on the subject. Also, some details on the upcoming roadshow, Kubuntu's new look, and saying goodbye to an old friend. Plus, we have some really awesome Go-powered retro feedback coming up in today's episode. So since that's so much to get into, no more delaying is allowed. I say we bring in that virtual lug. Time-appropriate greetings, Mumble Room.
Hello,
guys.
Good evening.
Hello. It's good to have you all here. Yes. Good evening. Hello, all. So let's start with a little follow-up. I know some of us may have seen that Kubuntu has a brand new look. They have a brand new look for a brand new season, I guess. It's fall after all, or it's becoming fall. And I want, Wes, your first takes on Kubuntu.org's brand new look, one of the big stories today going around. What do you think? Nice and clean?
Yeah.
Don't like it?
No, I like it. I think it represents Plasma 5 pretty well.
Oh, yeah, it does actually front and center represent some really nice aspects of
I haven't used it too much, so the usability, that's a separate question, but it's at least visually appealing.
Yeah, it really does kind of highlight some of the nice things, like here's the productivity suite and the multimedia playback. Good point. Yeah, it does draw a lot of focus.
It does make me want to use Kubuntu.
Kind of does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's easy right there.
It looks really nice. Now that you
pretty,
say that.
but not in your face in like a big Windows way.
And like if you're wondering like how do I do media playback, they have a button right there that would show you that. I've actually heard some grumbling about it, but when I look at it myself, I'm pretty impressed. I like how they've broken out long term. They also make it really clear here on which one is the latest and stable release on their download page. And then the page I haven't looked at yet is their community one. Oh yeah, there we go. They got a web chat set up right here. I don't know. I think it's pretty nice. Anybody in the Mumble Room have any reactions to the new Kubuntu.org?
It's okay. It's like I'm on a full desktop, so I don't have Windows full screen all the time. So when it's not, when your browser like half the screen, it's pretty much hamburger menu, and the icons are fairly large, even on the 1080p desktop. So I still think it needs some work.
Chat room thinks it should be kde.org. I kind of agree. This would be a great kde.org site.
Yeah, definitely. It should help out.
Well, I just props to those guys. It looks like a lot of work and effort went into that. If anybody else has any comments, going once. Oh, did you just shrink it down and see what he's saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great. They should work on their mobile design, but
It does work though when you shrink it down at least.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I can grab the download right here.
Yeah.
Well, it does look like they just bought a theme, so I mean, looks like they'll need some tweaking after that.
Yeah, maybe that's the case. All right, I wanted to just note, because we've been following this story in Unplugged now for a little while, another death in Flash is another nail in Flash's death coffin. Is that the right turn of phrase?
Nail in the coffin, yep.
Yeah, something like that.
Flash is dying, that's important.
Yeah, that is the thing to pull from that. And I think this is a big one because Chrome is going to block like those obnoxious flashing ads in one of the next updates. This is huge for us Linux users because as this begins to finally die off. And then what I'm looking forward to is eventually somebody's going to have to come up with a really good solution for live streaming in HTML5.
Hopefully this will put more pressure in that.
Wimpy, are you skeptical?
Well, it was just that it was last week or the week before that there was this big brouhaha about Hulu. Not that I can use it, but Hulu has switched to Flash. Is that right?
So Hulu switched to Flash?
What were they before? Was it Silverlight?
Did they switch or have they always been Flash? But I saw a load of
from maybe from Silverlight or something, huh? Oh,
maybe.
Yeah. Pardon our dust.
And then,
let's see.
Yeah, and then over here, I've got Amazon Prime subscription.
Sure, yeah.
So Prime, I've now got access to Prime Music because that's just arrived a couple of weeks ago, and Prime Instant Video. And the only way I can access those services on Linux is with with Flash. So there's still some sort of premium content providers out there using Flash. So I'm wondering if we're heralding in Flash's death prematurely.
To me, it's like the slow end of a distribution,
Amazon's
right?
quite a
We're
big
getting
company,
there
I think.
eventually.
I don't know about right now. I mean, yeah, you're right, Wimpy. I think it's years off, isn't it? Because, because Google itself distributes quite a bit of ads over Flash.
I think Flash is going to end up dying the death of XP.
Yeah, is that in the sense that like it gets relegated to like a whole bunch of people are still using it kind of thing, or what do you mean there?
Yeah, like just it drags on forever before it actually gets, put away.
The same sort of things where you need XP for that one piece of hardware that the business can't upgrade.
Yeah.
That's what happens to Flash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I could see it. Yeah, I don't actually. No, people. You guys are such a bunch of pessimists. I think this is actually starting to happen though, to a degree. You guys, everybody in the chat room is like, come on. This is when you have auto pause happening. You have, I don't know. I think this is actually people are starting to finally turn the tide. I think this is really happening. Plus, I think at the same time this is happening where I think it's going to be a big deal that, well, maybe not. We'll see. But a lot of iOS devices starting in the fall are going to automatically start blocking ads. Safari on iOS 9 is coming with a built-in ad blocker. You combine that with the auto pausing of Flash ads, and online advertising is about to take a big hit. I mean, display ads.
Yeah, definitely. That'll be interesting. Do we know anything about how Google decides what the main content is versus the auxiliary?
Well, yeah, a little bit. So, what Google is doing is they're looking at ads that loop fast. So if you have like a very short video play of loop, 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 it'll count that after a certain amount, and then it will detect that and then pause it. And you can go into advanced settings and select the content settings for privacy, and then you can deselect and run important plugin content or something like that is the wording. I can't quite remember it, but yeah.
Got it.
Oh, here. I think they specified, actually, here's the link. I have it in the show notes. Here it is from Google. And they have some of the details. And they also talk about how to convert your, this is interesting. This is, okay. So here's the back end how this is going to work. So starting on September 1st, that's today, most Flash ads uploaded to AdWords, that's Google's ad platform, are automatically going to be converted to HTML5 to ensure your ads continue to show up on Google's display network.
Very nice.
So that's how Google's getting around the fact that so many of their ads are in Flash, is they're converting them to HTML. I wonder, they must just be breaking them out and then transcoding them if necessary.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting technology.
Yeah. And then they give people instructions like, perhaps it's not perfect, though, because they say you need to identify Flash ads in your content that aren't eligible for automatic conversion, and then convert these, and they give you steps to do that. Yeah, so, I think online advertising is for display ads, is about to get a big shakeup.
Yeah, what are they going to do about that?
I don't know.
That's a huge market.
I think they ought to convert to podcast advertisers, personally.
You're right.
That's what I think they should
We'll
do.
consult, offer a fee, and suggest.
Yeah. Well, yes, apparently there are HTML5 so Flash video, for the most part, is really just an H.264 video and sometimes an MP3 audio stream wrapped up in an FLV container. And then the Flash player is simply just playing it. Like our live stream right now is an H.264 stream and an MP3 audio stream that is then wrapped up in FLV and sent to the player. That just happens to be a very good container for delivering live content. If you have the technology, you could, for example, there is an open source tool out there called Livestreamer, and Livestreamer will break H.264 and the audio stream out of the FLV container. I'm probably butchering the real technicals of how this works, but this is layman understanding. It'll break it out of the FLV container and then repackage it up for you and display it on your Linux box without any need for Flash. And so you could take something like the Livestreamer app and point it at the Jupiter Broadcasting backup stream on Ustream, and it will break the stream out of, it'll break the H.264 video out and the MP3 video out and repackage it for you automatically right now. So it's obviously possible, because really all Flash video is H.264 video with a Flash container. So that's why it's not that hard, but it's fascinating. And this is on the verge of, we were just kind of talking about in the pre-show, but there's a bunch of industry people coming together to hopefully work on a non-patent encumbered video codec. I don't have my hopes up, but it's happening at least.
We'll see.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to something else. And something that I've been thinking a lot about right now is mobile data. And I'm going to tell you why in a little bit coming up on the show. And so, of course, that gets me thinking about our friends over at Ting. I'd like you to think about them, too. Go to linux.ting.com and check them out. It's mobile that makes sense. Ting is on a mission to change up mobile. I say people follow Ting for a while. You've known that some of the things they've been pioneering have now been showing up in other ways in sort of a watered-down fashion in the industry. It's kind of a little disappointing they can't ever quite get it right, but I guess that's kind of how it goes when you're an imitator. Ting is great because it's no contracts, no early termination fees, and you only pay for what you use. They just take your minutes, your messages, and your megabytes, and they add them up. It's $6 for the line, and then it's just your usage on top of that. It's a really slick system, and in fact, if you go over to linux.ting.com, you're going to save $50 off your first Ting device or $50 in Ting service credit. We have a special promo for the month of September to give you $50 of service credit or off your first device. And so you think about that. You're only paying for what you use. Well, my first month of Ting service was less than $25. So you might be able to get a couple of months in there, or do what I'm doing. I'm picking up the Ting Netgear Zing. At least I think this is the one I'm going to get my hands on. This is a nice Wi-Fi hotspot that connects to the Ting network, has a nice LCD, or I think it's OLED screen on it, touch screen, so you can see your signal, how many users you have connected, your battery life, and then you only pay for what you use. So once you buy this and it's unlocked, you own it, it's just $6 a month for the line, and then your data usage, and you can turn it on and off. And with a $50 service credit, well, I mean, you might be able to use this for a few months and not have to pay a dime, and there's no contract after you're done. It's just a $6 hotspot in your pocket. Go to linux.ting.com, get that discount. Also, check out their savings calculator. See why Ting is really, really great. They have a CDMA and GSM network, so I'm going to be using it. I'm hoping to end up with a CDMA and GSM Ting device, so that way wherever the signal's the best, that's the one I'll use for broadcasting on the road.
That's slick.
I'm still looking into all of that still, but I think it's going to be really great. And if I ever have any troubles, or if you ever have any troubles, Ting has no hold customer service. You can call them at 1-855-TING-FTW anytime between 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. East Coast. And a real human answers the phone, and they can actually solve your problems. And if you're a small business, definitely look into Ting, because it is an incredible way to save money. Essentially, this has been verified by a couple of third parties. If you have guaranteed, if you have between like 11 and 20 employees, you're probably going to save on Ting. It's almost guaranteed. It's impossible not to, and it goes from there too. It's because it's $6. There's no early termination fee. You can move the phones around. It's easy to manage the lines. You can turn them on and off. You can add and remove devices with no penalties. It's so slick. And then all the features you'd expect, like hotspot and tethering and caller ID and all that stuff with no crazy mysterious line items. And a really easy to manage dashboard. Go to linux.ting.com. And a big thanks to Ting. And go get that $50 credit or $50 off a Ting device. And they have the whole range of devices, GSM and CDMA. Linux.ting.com, and a big thank you to Ting for sponsoring Linux Unplugged. You guys rock. That $50 promo is awesome. Wanted to do a little follow-up from this Sunday's Linux Action Show. We talked about GoTy, a way to share your terminal as a web page. And Halifax submitted his use of GoTy after that episode of Linux Action Show. I thought that was so cool because he said there's there are a lot of different things you can use with GoTy. So I was delighted to see that you guys covered it in the last episode. I recently, just about a week ago, started experimenting with GoTy as a bridge between my Telnet, SSH, BBS, and the web. And it's been pretty sweet. The author was very responsive on his GitHub page and walking me through a handful of issues I was having getting the font set up correctly. So he has connected his frickin' BBS to the web using GoTy. And if you're watching the video version right now, I'm amazed. Look at that. That's amazing.
That's awesome.
That is incredible. We have a link in the show notes if you guys want to check it out. But I love this. This is a super solid follow-up, I thought, to look at that. So I'm going to let's type in Chris LAS. Chris LAS. Or maybe I should put new in there. Create an account, yes. Okay, my username is going to be Chris LAS. My origin is Jupiter. That seems like that should be good, right?
Only logical.
My email is chris@jupiterbroadcasting.com. That's a secret. Don't tell anybody that, okay, Wes? And my password, I better not say what my password is.
Super secret JB password.
Yeah, it's super, super secret. Create account, yes, create account. Boom. Now I'm done. Now I'm in his BBS. Using, this is a really nice system. Look at this. Here's the bulletins. Here's rumors. Who's online? Who else is online right now? Let's take a look. Just me. Just Chris LAS. Yeah, I'm a little lonely. That's too bad.
This is slick, though.
oddnetwork.org/BBS if anybody else wants to get online. Yeah, I agree. And so spacebar, yeah. So everybody go Go. There we go. Now we got somebody else online. We got Anonymous is logging in. Cool. And we're rocking his BBS, and look, it's moving around my screen because you had a CRT monitor back in BBS days, so you wouldn't want to burn in. So every time you refresh, it's awesome, I guess, or maybe I'm not sure why it's moving around, but that is really cool. That is really great. Thank you, Halifax, for submitting that into the subreddit. That is some awesome feedback. And that going from Flash, that's not Flash at all, right? So that's
totally.
That's such a great use of HTML5, I guess, is what you'd call it, I suppose. Okay, I wanted to talk about this story just because I've been trying to contemplate in my head, like, how exactly would open source deal if this actually happened? So a couple of different really important people, James Comey, the director of the FBI, and Admiral Mike Rogers, the director of the NSA, are both petitioning industry, the technology industry, specifically Silicon Valley and Congress as well. And they've remained adamant that companies need to install government-friendly backdoors into their encryption products. And I've played some clips, quite a few clips actually, on our Unfiltered show about this. But this continues to be a trend that legislators are actively considering because of the threat of terrorism. And they're worried that terrorists are using WhatsApp and whatnot to communicate. And so they want to have backdoors. And I could really care less if they work with Skype or WhatsApp or Instagram or Facebook to build in a backdoor. That almost seems like a given. But when I start thinking about what if it became a requirement, that if this is a communications piece, this is how the legislation is currently sort of being proposed. Communications enabling technology has to have backdoors. Well, there's a lot of things that fall under that category. A lot of open source products and projects fall under communications enabling technology. And so I don't really understand how if law is passed in the U.S. that mandates this, but software is created outside the U.S. by open source developers, how do we reconcile that difference? And does that software have to comply with U.S. law to be used in the U.S.? Wes, do you have any insights on this?
I don't know, but it sounds very negative we've seen how much open source is important to business interests these days.
Sure.
And already you see, some programs developed outside of the U.S., OpenBSD comes to mind almost explicitly because they don't want things like this meddling with software. So I don't think it would be in our interest to have this policy.
Yeah, I agree. And of course, building in backdoors by design is not necessarily...
Right, as we've seen all
import restrictions, exactly. I wonder if this will come across as import restrictions. Anybody in the Mumble Room have any thoughts as we start to talk about this?
My first thought is no, this should not exist in any way, shape, or form in the entire world because it's just going to compromise everybody in the end.
Yeah, building in, basically making the product insecure by design.
My biggest beef on this one from an economic standpoint is, don't they realize that this is going to kill U.S. businesses?
Yeah, exactly. I also wonder how they think, it depends on if it's at the service level, but if the NSA can use a backdoor into something, I wonder why they're so, if they're arrogant enough to think that the Chinese intelligence service wouldn't be able to find such a backdoor, or any of our enemies.
Yeah. Yeah, especially as we've seen that, documentation and information can leak, secrets get stolen, source code can be stolen, and then once that gets out there, then anybody that's implemented that product is compromised. And and it seems like it seems like an extremely slippery slope because what I would worry about is it would force large companies that work with the government as contractors or the government itself to buy proprietary software and no longer be able to include an open source option because they don't have these mandated requirements. And they would just look at it as they are not up to whatever the spec requirements are. And they would just simply be disqualified on those grounds. And so they would have to go to vendors like Oracle and Microsoft and Apple or whoever, Cisco, whoever, instead of implementing an open source solution because those open source solutions can't be guaranteed to have that. And they're not going to be bothered to patch it themselves or whatever because it's probably impractical.
Right. They'll just get a bid from one of those companies and that'll be that.
Yeah. Boy, that just makes me really uncomfortable when I think about it. And I was specifically like wimpy outside the U.S. I'd be really curious what your thoughts are when we make changes like this and how it can mess with people outside the U.S. Any insight there?
The UK is so in bed with the US that it's pretty much the same or similar legislation and activities end up being adopted over here. So,
in fact, Cameron himself has been making a lot of rumblings about this very same issue at the same time.
Yes, he has.
It's very interesting that both sides of the pond are talking about the same thing at the same time. There's obviously a push behind the scenes here for this. And I mean, not to sit here and fry conspiracy bacon in a Linux show, but it seems pretty obvious on the face of it that they're all talking about it at the same time. And it seems like we're surrounded.
It really does.
And in the case where open source might be our salvation as users, I feel like it could also then, any companies that have to follow these standards and requirements, any private companies or any government departments, they can't use open source. It's just, I don't like the way it's going. So the good thing is the battle isn't over yet, and there's actually a lot of agencies in the government that are also taking opposite stances. I think the FCC just published something actually today saying that solid encryption is fundamental to protecting U.S. commerce.
Yeah, definitely.
So obviously there's a lot of different angles on this. If you are curious about this topic at all, it's something we've been following for since about April, pretty consistently in the Unfiltered show, and you can check out some of our episodes on that. I've played some clips. I did actually in the show notes too. If you really actually are really concerned about this, and I kind of would, I like to believe that some of you out there actually are, even if it's just a fantasy.
If not us, then
yeah. I linked in the show notes a hearing back in, where was it? I'm looking for it right now. It was a hearing back in April, I think, about this topic and about all of this. And it's a very long, boring C-SPAN capture, but it covers the reasons why they want this and how they want it done. And they're really working on it. And I always curious when one major nation makes a big decision like that, how it impacts Linux and open source. Maybe the audience has some insights on this too. linuxactionshow.reddit.com and look for episode 108. Raymond in the chat room. Raymond in the chat room says, if it went through, wouldn't that mean that Fedora and Debian, etc., would stop shipping security software as non-free on the same grounds as things like patent encumbered codecs? That's exactly what I was thinking too. Is it all of a sudden, yeah. I mean, yeah, because the Fedora project and Debian project isn't going to want to ship stuff that's compromised by design.
Right, no. Doesn't protect the user.
Oh boy, see what a slippery slope this could be? This is something I've been thinking about, and I don't quite have an answer to it. And maybe we're overthinking it, but I don't think so. I think it's something to think. Kitson, what are your thoughts?
I think that the rest of the world is smarter. I don't think they'll go along with it. I mean, the U.S. can only go so far with bullying and with legislation before the rest of the world just says, stop it. You're only 5% of the population. You don't get to dictate what the rest of the 95% of the world does.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe. But a lot of the industry and influence is where they're making those decisions right now. So this is probably, from their point in time, the time to do it. Or they still have that position. Well, I don't know. Let's move on. This kind of got us down, doesn't it?
It's a little depressing.
I'm sorry. I don't want to be. Yeah, I agree. It is very.
And the value of this is negative.
No more with that. So no more with this. Let's actually move on to something I'm really crazy, super excited about. I want to talk about the roadshow that we're going to be doing here in just a little bit. But first, why don't we pick it up? Let's pick up the pace. Let's talk about something that makes me excited. Let's talk about DigitalOcean. Let's talk about our friends at DigitalOcean just for a second, because you could go over there and create something that makes you feel good. Doesn't make me think about James Comey or Admiral Rogers or whatever. It makes me think about creating Linux servers on demand, because DigitalOcean is dedicated to offering the most simple and intuitive way for you to do that. And if you use the promo code DO Unplugged, you get a $10 credit. You can get started in less than 55 seconds. You get a machine with 512 megabytes of RAM, a 20 gigabyte SSD, one CPU, and a terabyte of transfer for $5 a month. And if you use our promo code DO Unplugged, you get the $10 credit. Try that $5 rig for 2 months. It's pretty nice. And DigitalOcean has data center locations in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, London, and a nice one. I mean, they're all nice, but a really brand new one in Germany. And I say that because I drool at the pictures they post online. And I love DigitalOcean's interface. It's simple, it's intuitive, and you can replicate it on a larger scale with their API. Go over to DigitalOcean and just play around with them a little bit. Create some machines, destroy some machines, update some software, feel like a boss. And use the promo code DO Unplugged. You can do it all for free. And while you're there, why not follow one of their great tutorials? They're posting new ones all the time. Like here's one that just went up. How to automate installing WordPress on Ubuntu 14.04 using Ansible. How to set up Apache Virtual Hosts on Ubuntu 14.04. Now that is, every time you do it, you get better and better at it. But if you've only done it a couple of times, boy, this is a really great guide. First of all, 14.04 LTS is a great machine to deploy Apache on. And this is super, super nice. It's all the steps you need, and it's gone through by a technical editor. Look at this. I mean, I'm sorry, ArchWiki, but this is.
They're quickly becoming the go-to place for.
Well, look at this. This is. I mean, and you know what? The thing is this is just like scratching the surface. They have tons of them. So not only do they have all of these great tutorials, but they also have one-click deployment of many, many applications that you might want to install. Ghost, WordPress, Ruby on Rails, GitLab. I mean, the list goes on and on. In fact, there's way more now. So just use the promo code DOUnplugged, get a $10 credit. And, speaking of the road trip, when I'm on the road, I'm going to be using DigitalOcean to move stuff around, bounce our live signal off of it. DigitalOcean.com. You can get started right now. DOUnplugged. They also have Core OS. You can go check that shenanigans out. It's a pretty cool system. They get updates right from the upstream distro. DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code DOUnplugged. Big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Unplugged program. So I've been trying to come up with a name for the roadshow. So Wes, you've been current on the shows. I'm impressed.
I just watched the latest this morning.
Look at you doing your homework before
That's
you came
right.
up
Well,
here.
you got to be prepared.
So were you honeymooning or moving last week? I can't remember. I get them all mixed up.
Kind of both. Got back from my honeymoon, and then I had to move out of my previous house. So I'm finally back to a little bit of normalcy.
So hold on. You get married, and then you go on a honeymoon, and then you move back to back to back.
Oh yeah.
Why didn't you? I mean, I'm not. Why didn't you either schedule the move or the marriage further apart?
Probably should have. There were some, let's just say, operational constraints.
Okay. I'm very familiar with that.
But it's done now. I'll be more stable.
I understand. I'm very familiar with operational constraints. Let me tell you. Yeah, that's my world these days. So this roadshow, so I guess I don't have to fully update you. You're pretty current on what's going on.
I'd like to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Oh, well, all right. So, I'll get everybody super up to date on where we're at. So right now I am planning to go on the road, and this is all semi-locked down, but also, as anything that's production-oriented, could change at the last minute. So I make that disclaimer. But right now, tentatively planning to get on the road September 19th and make the drive from Everett, Washington to Grand Forks, North Dakota, taking US 2. Noah tells me that we can leave from Everett, Washington and make it to his house without taking more than 4 or 5 turns off of US 2. Now, we're going to, but that's a pretty cool concept, so we're going to see if that was the basic core concept. We get there, and then we've committed to doing a last Cribs edition where I want to go through and tour Noah's house, maybe put on his Google Glass and take some video of how he automates his house. See if I can find where he's snuck in some Windows or Macs in the house. Wouldn't that be something? Yes.
JB scandal.
Yeah, exactly. And then, but the idea is the journey between Everett and Grand Forks, North Dakota, that itself is going to be content. We're going to be recording along the way. We're going to be trying to produce shows along the way, doing meetups along US 2 between Everett and Grand Forks, and starting in Spokane with Imacon and crew. If anybody wants to meet up at the Imacon, put the brewery in there again if you would. The Roaming Penguin, yeah, that's a good name. Yeah, so we're trying to come up with a name for the road trip because so I should back up. I'm very excited. So that was the core concept we started with months and months ago when we had a goal on Patreon, and so we've been trying to figure out how to really do this in a way that's sustainable. And my initial thought was, in order to continue to do shows, so the shows can continue, I should rent an RV. Because it would be madness to buy an RV.
Just crazy.
That would be, what the hell am I going to do with an RV? So I will rent an RV. And it turns out that's a lot of money. I don't normally really sit there and budget and plan things out. That's not my style. But in this one particular case, Noah was here, and we had the whole crew here. We were going down. We broke down all the numbers, and we looked at it. And it was it's going to cost us over $6,000 just to rent an RV to do this road trip.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, because they also have to pay for like 38 cents a mile for gas and stuff like that, so it's very expensive. And that was that totally took the wind out of the sails. And then I started the search process just to see what it would cost to just get a lightweight trailer to pull with my truck that I have already. And
light.
I looked at teardrop units, and because I'm telling you, price range is low here because we don't have a lot to work with. And I found a unit that folks were selling because the owner was having some health issues. And he'd only taken it on 3 trips. Twice down to California, once to the Oregon coast. And they live here in Washington. And so I go through. It's a 25-foot trailer, and it was just about right. It's not quite like an Airstream or something like that, but it's still it's a fine trailer. And the deal was all getting finalized, and I was about ready to I thought maybe we could even do a show out of it, but the gentleman selling to me had a heart attack last week.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful. And so it completely derailed the deal for a couple of days. But
more important things on their mind, I'm sure.
Yes, sure. So we managed, but things are picking back up this week. So that's good. So I managed to get a fantastic deal because they needed to get rid of this RV pretty bad. And so I got a fantastic deal on a trailer that I'm going to load up on September 19th, ideally, and hit the road and then meet up with people along the way, do broadcasts, and we'll see where I have connectivity and I don't. And I'm going to take it over the Stevens Pass. I've never pulled a trailer over Stevens Pass. I don't have an engine brake, but I'm going to take it over the pass. It should be fine. And and meet up with people and on the other side. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. And so Xerocon 34 had a couple ideas to name the roadshow. 'Cause I'm trying to come up with a good name for this roadshow. Because we're going to be doing many of the shows from the road, including Last and Unplugged. And so he wrote, says, Chris mentioned he was looking for a silly name for the new mobile studio in his RV. And he says, here was an idea for the show name, The Whole Enchilada Show. The Whole Enchilada Show. I don't know about that one. The other suggestions came in, the mobile-oriented broadcast and Linux entertainment, which the acronym for that would be mobile. That's pretty clever.
That's pretty good.
JB2 is also available. The Freebird, I like that. That's not bad, actually. The Freebird. The Roaming Penguin, again, comes up. So anyways, Mumble Room, if you guys have any ideas for what we should name the road trip. The Linux Action Show Roadshow, that's not bad. Chatroom's throwing some at us right now. Shuttlepod 5. I don't know why I like that, but I do. That's pretty good, too. Freebird's not bad. And it's a Jayco trailer, too, so it has birds on it already, and we could put a penguin on there.
Oh.
Yeah.
I gotta get the JB
I like the
logo up
Freebird.
on
I'm going to
there.
write that one down. I'm writing that down. We got a couple of votes for Freebird. That's not bad.
He's actually writing it on paper, guys.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
distressingly old school.
Yeah, that's actually how I commit things to memory, I find, is if I actually write them down. So I don't know exactly how we're going to do this. We're going to try to power the broadcast from the rig using Linux.
Oh, this is exciting.
Yeah. We're going to try to actually make everything DC powered too, which should be an interesting challenge. So we'll have a couple of Linux laptops, probably one of them running Nicecast or Icecast or whatever. But there's actually a program called But. I mean, there's a lot of different ones we could use. That I don't know. We're going to use something to send a signal back and Skype, and then we're going to do local recording so that way the audio quality should be pretty good. So it shouldn't be that bad unless there's a bunch of background noise or something like that. And I wonder if this real stretch goal of mine would be to be actually able to broadcast while the rig is moving.
Oh, that would be amazing.
I don't know where that'd be possible at. I have to make sure I have really good signal, but I think it'd be amazing to do a show while the rig's actually going down the road.
Live stream you just quietly driving for hours.
No, I wouldn't be driving and doing a show at the same time. That's way too distracting. So if you would like to help out with our effort, I would more than appreciate that because the wish list is posted and the list is long. Right now, the big thing that I'm really thinking I'm probably not going to be able to purchase, and so if somebody out there is in a position to be able to afford it, is the cell phone booster kit, which boosts all 4G LTE signals.
Oh, really?
From all the networks.
That's impressive.
You put an antenna up on a metal plate on top of the trailer, and then it has a plate that it connects to inside the rig, and then it rebroadcasts all LTE signals. So some people in the reviews I've read say maybe if you have 1 bar, this thing will transform it into 4 bars. And I'm thinking that's the difference between doing a show and not doing a show. However, the problem is it's $380. And the installation is probably going to be another $400, which just paying for the installation alone is about all I can afford.
Right.
Plus, I'm getting other things installed on the rig as well and getting some things removed. That would be one that it could make the difference between being able to do a show and not being able to do a show, and it's one that I don't think I can buy. So that would be high on my list if somebody could afford that. We have the wish list linked in the show notes. There's also other things on there like everything, like toilet paper. I mean, anything you can do to help would be greatly appreciated because tomorrow I'm taking the truck in and I'm getting it sort of ready. You know, there's a lot of small things on your vehicle when you drive 5-10 miles a day. You don't really care that it's out of alignment or the tires need rotation or that you're 1,500 miles over on your oil or that your mirror is shaking or that your e-brake hasn't worked for 3 years or that...
The niceties, you know.
Or that you've never had your coolant system flushed. You don't care about these things when you're just driving 5-10 miles a day, but then when you're going to be towing a 25-foot trailer 3,000 miles... plus, then these are things you need to look into. So tomorrow I'm taking the truck in and getting all that work done on it, which pretty much soaks up pretty much any...
All the free spending.
Yeah. So if anybody does want to help out, we have the wish link linked in the show notes. And as I go along, I'll be posting videos and things like that too. So hopefully it's going to be a ton of fun. And if something blows up in my face, I plan to record that too. I'm not just going to repost the good stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah. If I end up with a flat on the side of the road, I'm going to turn it into content. I am bound and determined to make the best out of it.
That's all you'll be doing while you wait for the tow truck.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I'll have the Mumble Room with me, or Wes, potentially you could be here in studio, and I could be, you'd be here maybe jumping and pulling the Mumble Room in because the show's got to go on.
I'd love to help.
That'd be great. So and then we'll still have somebody local in studio when I'm out on the road. Somebody says get AAA. That's probably not a bad idea there. I should look into the cost of AAA.
Yeah, maybe you can do it for just a month or whatever.
Yeah, like I wonder if they have like a limited thing. And I'm getting insurance too for the trailer. Like all these business things you have to do for a road trip. Anybody in the mumble room have an RV?
No.
Yeah, I'm screwed. I got nobody to get advice from. I'm all out on my own on this. I've been watching YouTube videos and reading how-tos, and I think I actually might have made a good move not ending up with an Airstream. Maybe. I was reading about wireless signals and getting wireless in and out of, and it looks like those Airstreams sometimes are a little difficult on that. And also, I'm like pre-marking down like areas along US 2 where I think I might be able to get Wi-Fi if there's no cellular signal. And I got an email from somebody who's like, "Hey Chris, why don't we meet up here? This is probably your last best place to get good internet in Montana." And I'm looking at the map and it's like way east, or way west on Montana. So it's way early in the trip. And I'm looking at it going, "You mean I don't have good internet for like the rest of Montana? I'm going to go crazy.
Space.
I'm going to go crazy." So
I should probably download those coverage maps before you leave.
Yeah. I wouldn't picture any Wi-Fi signal either coming out of there. So yeah, there you go. I'm pretty excited. That's the latest. I'm trying to think if there's any other updates. So I'm going to be posting more videos to our patrons too, that for people to check that out. But this will be an interesting challenge: a live mobile Linux-powered broadcast. I don't know. Has anybody else done that?
I don't know of anyone.
Is this first? I don't know. It could be a first.
You should probably just start calling it the first.
I think I'm
until
going to call it first. Yeah.
someone says
That's right. That's how it works on the internet, right?
Stake your claim.
Yeah, actually, that's what I was thinking. Token Ring says in the chat room said it might do me some good to disconnect from time to time. Yeah, especially in the mountains and, like at Glacier National Park and stuff. Yeah, I know, Darren. I know. So I'm not saying it's the first mobile roadshow. I'm saying I think it's the first Linux-powered mobile roadshow.
That's the important part.
I think so. I think it's the first Linux-powered mobile roadshow. Oh, and you know what? Speaking of the wish list, I almost moved on and completely forgot to mention this. The first item off the wish list did arrive because I mentioned it on Sunday, and it came from Noah, and it is the Black Tank Empty Kit, which is the poop hose. So this is the poop hose I'll be using on the road trip to empty the piss and poo from the RV. And Noah got it from me off the wish list. Isn't that great?
Aww.
So that was his special contribution right there to the road trip. No, that's not his only contribution, but he got me a nice 15-foot, what is it? Rhinoflex sewer kit. Rhinoflex sewer kit. And do you know why you want a clear swivel connector right there?
I do not.
So that way when you flush out your black tank, you can see the water turn from brown to clear.
Oh, so you know.
You know it's clear. You know it's clean.
I think this means you might not be welcome to use Noah's bathroom when you get there.
You think that's some subtle?
Yeah, maybe.
You're probably right. Yeah, well, you know what's funny is I liked it because this was Noah's real nice way of saying you're not welcome to stay at the house. As he said to me, he's like,
"You have all the facilities."
He's like, "Hey, man, so would you just prefer that I just arrange a hotel for you when you get here?" And I'm like, "What?" And like, I was planning to stay in the RV. He's like, "Oh, okay." I think he was just trying to make sure I wasn't planning to stay in the house.
Right.
Like, you can come in and do the Last Cribs tour, but you can't stay in the house. That's what I...
Please park a mile away from the property.
Yeah, and give us a good 15 minutes notice before you come over. Yeah. We'll see. And then if something really dramatically goes wrong, and like I can't get any connectivity, so like I can't show up for Unplugged or something like that, Noah's offered to stand in and do the broadcast from his studio using OBS and Linux and probably Skype to do the shows. So he can stand in as an emergency host if for some reason on the road trip I'm completely unavailable, which means I'll allow myself also to just, if that happens, I'll just take the day off. Yeah. And let Noah handle it, which I think will be really nice. And then for TechSnap, we're pre-recording because Alan's going to be traveling,
of course.
So we're not even going to be doing TechSnap on the weeks that I'm going to be gone anyways. So that show's taken care of. So it's really a perfect time.
It's just all working out.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. But we could use your help if anybody does want to help us out. I'll have a link in the show notes. So I want to say goodbye to an old friend. Maybe I don't know if software has a sex or a gender, but just pot kettle just suggested the fecal matters of Chris Lass as no, that is not a title suggestion. Okay, so we have an old friend to say goodbye to, somebody who's brought us through good times and bad times, somebody who's really brought us up. I'll tell you more about that here in just a second. First, I want to tell you about our friends at Linux Academy. Go to linuxacademy.com/unplugged and check out Linux Academy. It's a great resource to learn more about anything around Linux and open source. They have a great set of guides, comprehensive study guides you can pull down, scenario-based labs. They have instructor help available and nuggets to deep dive into singular topics. I love it. You've heard me talk about them before, but something new is happening at Linux Academy. They're hiring. They're looking for great new content creators who want to join a high-quality and fast-paced team. Long-term contract, part-time, potentially full-time for the right candidates. They have a few opportunities they're looking to fill with DevOps professionals and developers. They're looking for Linux and C++ development, Bash, Perl, and Python instructors. They want instructors who are seeking to share their knowledge and have a passion for teaching others. If this is something that sort of pushes a button for you, I want you to consider getting paid for it by Linux Academy. They're looking also for big data and machine learning developers who would love to share their knowledge with a passionate community inside Linux Academy. I love that our sponsors are coming to us and saying, we want to hire your audience because they're that great. This is such an awesome trend. This is such a great way for these sponsorships to go to in multiple cases now, our sponsors come and say, we'd like to hire from your audience. And this is such a great opportunity because you've heard me talk about what a great company they are and why we work with them. And now you have a chance to join their team. Also, if you're not interested in video creation, they're also looking for certified professionals to help increase the practice exams database. The Linux Academy is going to be paying between $1 to $25 for practice exam questions, depending on the quality, depth, and accuracy of the questions. So if you're interested, give them like your cover letter, your resume, and info about you. Send it to career@linuxacademy.com. career@linuxacademy.com. And if you want to go get a job over there, check them out. If you're interested in signing up for Linux Academy, learning more about Amazon Web Services, or learning something like Python or Ruby on Rails, or how to manage a Linux system properly, go to Linux Academy and get our special discount when you go to linuxacademy.com/unplugged. You get a 33% discount. linuxacademy.com/unplugged, and career@linuxacademy.com if you are interested in getting a job. I think it's so cool they're hiring from
awesome.
Our audience. It's because they're smart people out there. Smart people. I love you guys. All right, so let's talk about our old friend. You guys probably saw the news. Lilo is going to cease development on December. Lilo comes to an end. The old Linux loader. The development of Lilo as a classic bootloader was restarted in 2010. Lilo has some advantages because it's super simple, and a lot of people liked it over Grub and Grub 2. But the developer says that because of limitations with ButterFS, GPT partition tables, and even RAID itself, he's kind of done. If someone wants to develop this further, he's willing to take submissions. Bye-bye, Lilo. What do you think, Wes? Are you sad when things like this happen?
It definitely had its place in history. Personally, I've never relied on it, between Grub and SysLinux. And now, EFI does it itself.
I actually think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, we only need so many solutions. It's good to have more than one.
Yeah, and this is the natural cycle of software. Something gets created, it's useful for a long time, something new comes along, and we make room for the new stuff. And this served its purpose so well, and because the code's open, it never goes fully away.
Yeah, you want to use it for your own custom solution?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I actually think Lilo is a perfect example of how open source code started. It was created to solve a problem. People thought it was no longer useful. It was kind of put away. And then in 2010, they came back out and they said, actually, we can take this code that already exists and we can make it relevant again. And it got a whole new resurgence. And I don't think you'd ever have seen that with a commercial product because you can't do it because of the licensing. Yeah, I actually think it's a great example of the open source life cycle. I'm trying to think of other projects that I'm familiar with. In Mumble Room, if you guys have any suggestions of projects that have been really big and then just have sort of faded away over time. I mean, obviously there's been distros like Mandrake and Mandriva, but individual projects, I was trying to think of besides Lilo that have been so important to us at one point and now have sort of faded away. Doom. Doom, no, Corky, no, not Doom. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting, it makes me appreciate the contribution that they do make while they're here, and it kind of makes me realize not everything's going to last forever.
And it is a lot of work to keep up with, changing file systems and
XMMS, not maybe XMMS. Yeah, some old X desktop applications. SysLinux, OpenOffice. I think OpenOffice is still around for the most part. Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at those kinds of projects. And DOS. No, I can't. I look at this too. The history of this thing. Version 23.0 came out in 2010. And then version 24 was released in 2013. So it was 3 years between major releases. So it's not like it was super rapid. Rekai says GNOME 2. Star Office. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, Star Office is, still SysLinux is still used broadly, yes. Star Office was a big one. Mumble Room, do you guys have any projects that have faded away that you used to No. Okay. Nobody's very talkative in there today. Be quiet.
BEOS faded away.
Yeah,
That one
BOS.
I liked.
Yeah. Don't even get me started on BOS. Oh boy. Yeah, my BOS experience was really solid. We've talked about it before. We did Heroku. Is that what replaced it? Is that what came along? The open source
Haiku?
No.
Haiku. Yeah. We did a Haiku episode years ago. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Haiku action show.
That's what people call it. Yeah. The Haiku Action Show. I don't think we actually named it that, but yeah. At the Haiku is a pretty fun operating system to check out. You guys can check it out. Anyways, Lilo coming to an end. You guys can see the announcement in the show in December. Maybe we'll throw a little party for it.
Maybe I'll give it a try before it goes away forever.
give it one
boot
more
up a couple things. Yeah.
I like that, Wes. That's nice. Good way to send it out. We should do that would be really interesting. It's just like a classic Linux distro that's old kernel using
really
Lilo.
fun.
Yeah. System D? What? No. No. Hey, guys, if you have any projects, any submissions for that kind of thing, linuxactionshow.reddit.com, go find episode 108 and submit it there, or any stories or submissions for this year's show. You can go over there at linuxactionshow.reddit.com and submit that to us. I'd really like to hear your thoughts on the whole NSA stuff, too. Kind of, what's going on there with how would open source respond to that if backdoor encryption was mandated, having backdoors in the encryption.
It'd be interesting to hear from some people from other countries.
Yes, exactly. And then also, with the debate continues on over at the Linux Action Show. If Richard Stallman ever needs to have actually installed Linux,
I've never installed GNU/Linux.
that debate continues to rage on, as well as the Kubuntu site revamp, and a thread about diehard keystroke launcher, folks. And I have a quick one that I'd like to throw to the audience, and he runs down, by the way, GNOME-do and Synapse and others. At some point, in GNOME 3, when you hit the meta key or the super key or the Windows key, whatever you want to call it, it brings over the activities overview, and then you can start searching immediately.
I love that.
Me too, Wes. That's pretty much how I use it as a launcher. Sometime my main machine upstairs, I accidentally remapped that super key, and I have no idea how to undo that. I cannot use super key anymore. And I've gone into GNOME settings and keyboard and shortcuts, and I don't see anything wrong there. I just can't set it anymore, and it's driving me crazy. If anybody knows how to revert that back, if there's some gcomp file I don't know what I could do. I miss being able to hit the meta key and launch my.
Oh, that's confusing.
Yeah, and because it's upstairs, I can't ever troubleshoot on air. Otherwise, I would try that a little bit.
GoTy, we can get the mama room right on your machine.
Yeah, that's true, right? I was thinking if I can't figure it out, I might just switch over to one of these other ones that were just linked in the subreddit. Cooper is one that looks like it's Qt. You have GNOME-do, Synapse, Albert. How about that? Mutate? I'm going to look at that one too. This is a really pretty solid lineup, including the built-in Krunner, Unity, and GNOME Shell launchers. I'm looking at Mutate, though, award-winning productivity application. Okay. It's in the AUR. That meets my requirements. Albert's looking good, though. Look at Albert, Wes. Look at this. Albert, an amazing desktop environment, agnostic Omni launcher. The backend will be written at the end of February. Oh, well, okay, it's after February. So these launchers are super. Look, he's doing math in the launcher.
That is
he's doing Google searches in there. I think Albert might be one to check out. That might be one to look at. I don't know. I see. It looks like 27 days ago it was last touched.
Pretty active.
Looks like it's using Qt5. So you need to have Qt5 installed on your system. That's Albert. So he has. I'll link to this in the show notes. He's gone through and done a really good job. SB56637 in the subreddit, and really summarized the current state. One of the things I like here is when he's separating out the different launchers, he mentions that GNOME-do had it last released in January 22nd, 2014.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. So that is the issue with GNOME-do, is that it doesn't have a lot of active development. So he's done a really, really superb job. In fact, that is really great work. He spent some serious time writing this up. So I'll link to that if you guys are curious about this. And if you haven't tried it, have you ever tried the launcher, Wes?
Yeah, I used to use GNOME-do pretty heavily.
Yeah, why'd you stop?
I just launch everything from the terminal now.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, mostly.
Really?
Well, I use Fish like you do for a lot of things on my home machine anyway.
Yeah, and what's your main desktop environment? GNOME?
No, I use Awesome.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah, so they have
that makes
shell type
you
launcher.
Awesome. You really use Awesome? Oh, that's great. Oh boy, well then we should have you do a segment on here one week about why you use Awesome.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. And what did you switch from? What would you use before Awesome?
GNOME 3.
How recently did you make this transition?
It's been, I don't know, probably better part of a year.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? And so you went from GNOME what? That would have been what? GNOME 312-ish timeline, 312-ish timeline?
I think 312, yeah.
And you And you went to awesome.
Yeah, and I still love GNOME.
Yeah,
You know, I put it on friends' computers.
You're blowing my mind, though.
I use Cinnamon at work, which is
Not that tiling window managers are so crazy. It's just for some reason I pegged you as a GNOME 3 guy, and I can't remember what we had said.
Well, I do really like it. I mean,
yeah.
For when I want to show off Linux and make it look really
I
pretty.
feel violated now. I feel no, I'm just kidding. Everybody tells me I should try it, and we did do one episode on Awesome at one point, and it just, for me, and I wonder why if you don't feel it feels for me like going back in time.
I do understand that from time to time. I do, like Integros has a beautifully configured GNOME 3 out of the box, so I use that as my go-to live CD for a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate it. Or if I want to just like show off slick, shiny Linux, mostly I just don't need. I prefer to mount things myself, and a lot of the little things where I'd rather have my own setup for it already in the ARC way.
Yeah, boy, that's you crazy. Yeah, we should do an unplugged episode on tiling window managers. Anybody in the mumble room on a tiling window manager?
i3 is pretty great too.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about trying. Actually, was i3.
No, I'm still playing with Plasma 5.
Yeah, how's that been going?
I'm on the beta 1 now, and it's getting there. It's getting better. So I'm looking forward to 15.10. Maybe even put it on my main desktop finally.
Fascinating. Well, if you guys want to see us do a tiling window manager episode in Lub, I'm not quite sure how. I think we would need people in the mumble room that are involved or that are running it. That's how I would like to do it, I think.
I think an episode on introducing it and what it is and how people use it would be good.
Yeah, that sounds like that might be a good idea. I suppose I could try it. I just don't want to waste a week of productivity doing something I don't love. But if we had a few people in the mumble room, because maybe it'd be okay. But if we had a few other people, maybe long timers plus you'd be here, that might be a decent. That could be a good segment. It could be a good segment. All right, I wanted to answer one question before we left the show today, because we've talked on and off about running Linux on MacBooks on Unplugged. We tried it with Angela's laptop, and some other folks went out and bought MacBooks and tried it. Well, Jose writes in with a question that I think a lot of you are probably going to run into if you've ever tried Linux on a MacBook, or you know anybody out there who is. And he says, a year back, I wrote in asking for help getting Linux on my HP notebook. After a lot of research, I finally got Arch running flawlessly. However, I need some help again. About six months ago, I really wanted a new laptop, and I was looking at getting the Dell XPS 13, but my mother and girlfriend got me a MacBook Pro Retina with the Iris Pro graphics. 2014 edition as a gift for finishing my PhD. Well, congratulations, Jose. He says, I won't lie, I really like the build quality. Or it's Josie, I'm not sure. but not all that crazy about OS 10, right? About a month ago, I installed Antigros, but I have two huge problems. Number one, the battery life drops from 7 hours to 3 hours. And number two, the temperature on the laptop goes way up just by watching a simple video, and the fan goes crazy. I wonder if you guys have any ideas. I've tried to browse the Arch Wiki, but it hasn't been all that helpful. I'd really like to run Linux full time, but I can't solve these issues. If I can't solve these issues, I'm going back to OS 10. So the first issue, 7 hours or 3 hours, I think partially might be which graphics card you're using. So if you're using, say, the built-in dedicated graphics versus the Iris graphics, that's going to use way more power. But the major problem you have, in my opinion, with Linux on MacBooks is that SMC controller. Are you familiar with this?
Only broadly.
Yeah, the SMC controller is really responsible for a lot of the thermal management and probably, a lot of other regulative things towards power and whatnot in the MacBook. It's a custom Mac thing. There's no driver for Linux available. So the fans and temperature management are all done proactively under OS 10. In fact, OS 10 even is aware of CPU load and GPU load and how that relates to potential heat increase and will preemptively increase the fans to cool the machine. And all of that is done in software inside the OS 10 operating system. And the reality is that what you get when you don't run OS 10 on a MacBook is you get essentially the hard limit thermal controls that keeps the hardware alive.
Right.
So you get these weird swings from low thermal management to extreme thermal management where the fans kick up. And he says, I'm watching a video and my fans go crazy. I don't have a great fix for this, and I'm wondering if people in the subreddit or in the Mumble Room or in the IRC do. But here's, look here. Zara is saying there's a thermal daemon on GitHub you might be able to search for. Not specifically for Macs. Thermal D is not specifically for Macs, but so Thermal D, I'll put a link to that in the show notes. I don't know about that specifically, but what I do know has worked, and it's a little hokey, and it does require that you have a little OS 10 install on the machine, an itsy-bitsy in OS 10 install, which I actually do recommend anyways because it's the only way you can do important UEFI and other firmware updates that would help protect you against things like Thunderstrike. So I recommend you do keep a little OS 10 on there, despite the hard drive space that comes at a premium on those Mac SSDs. If you boot into OS 10 before you boot into Linux, and don't shut off, but just reboot. Don't power the machine off, but just reboot. Boot into OS 10 first, and install an app called SMC Fan Controller. Now, SMC Fan Controller has been around for a really, really long time, and what it does is it controls statically the fans under OS 10. So you can go in there, and what you can do is build different fan controller profiles. Medium, high sound, low sound, and if you're going to be gaming, you would set it to the higher profile. If you're not going to be gaming, you would set it to the lower profile. And if you're going to be watching videos, maybe you set it to a medium profile, and then you boot into Linux. Now, it's not ideal, but what it does is it sets a new baseline for the fan RPMs. So you could say, instead of having them spin at 800 RPM, you could have a baseline of 15 or 2,000 RPM, with the max about 6,000, where you actually start to hear them. So you could go in and say, set your base level RPMs at 1,000 RPMs or 2,000 RPMs. It's slightly louder than it would be under OS 10, just slightly, but it can run much longer that way before it has to kick into the crazy thermal management. This is a really hokey workaround. There's got to be a better way to do this, but if you do have a mini OS 10 install, that's one way to do it. Nate says, there's Mac Fan CTLD. I use it with Ubuntu GNOME and never have any problems, so check out Mac Fan CTLD. That could be another
Very
one.
nice.
Yeah. That's really cool. Thank you, Nate. Mac Fan CTLD. I don't have any more MacBooks with Linux on them at the moment.
It seems like one of those things too, where it's so specific to the different models and versions.
Yeah, it
too.
does change, right? And then Apple can just
get it just right, and then the next version.
Then you go buy a
miss
MacBook
out.
with one port, and it has completely different stuff. So, yeah, that's a rough way to go. But I know people like those MacBooks. We get a lot of emails about it. So, if somebody has some solid links like Nate there, I would love it if you'd add it to episode 108 over at the subreddit Linux Action Show. .reddit.com, and then other people could benefit from that as well. So, Linux Unplugged is live on Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Pacific. You can go to jblive.tv to join us. We have the chat room there. We also have the Mumble Room info, so you can hang out in our virtual lug. If you're not quite sure what 2 p.m. Pacific is, I don't blame you, because I realize now I'm going to have to try to figure out time zones as I go across the U.S., and I'm like, crap, what am I going to do? And then it was pointed out to me, Chris, just go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar.
Some smart guy already set that up.
Yeah, I too will be using the calendar on the road trip. I will be feeling your pain, audience, so no judgment. Also, we love feedback, jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact. Choose Unplugged from the drop-down and send in your emails, linuxaction@reddit.com. Wes, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody, see you right back here next Tuesday. All right, now we vote jbtitles.com. jbtitles.com. I'm going to grab this one sec.
Please do,
Yes.
yes.
There you go. All right, there we go. Hello. Comment on the possibility of unfiltered Colorado high note. Am I going to be in Colorado? I don't think I'm going to be in Colorado. I'm taking US too. I don't think I'll be there. A high note from Colorado. Although, Colorado could happen on the return trip. We're going to break from US 2 on the return trip and take in more of an indulgent route home. So it's always possible. Oh, that new Google logo. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. Ooh-wee.
I kind of missed the serifs, honestly.
Really? Backdoors for the clueless. Do you have a list of planned stops on US 2? No, Billy. I'm hoping people want to do meetups and contact me. I need meet. If you do meetups, is there a way to do like meetup suggestions on meetup.com?
I don't know. That'd be
I don't know.
interesting.
Yeah. What tiling window manager should we force Chris to use for a week? I do remember that now that we do this. See, the results were i3 by 54%. So apparently we've discussed this. Yes, I do recall discussing this now.
Huh.
Oh boy. See, Matt had my back on the he was an anti-tiler too. So it was easier for me to avoid having to deal with the tiling issue on the show. However, now that you're here and you've got tiling preferences, now you got the Mumble Room. Look at this. i3, 80 votes,
Dominating.
54. Look at this at 148 votes. This is no good. This is.
I think you should wait till after the road trip. That way you don't get too many things going on.
That's probably a good point. Or maybe we do it on the road trip. Really
Change
just
everything up.
Yeah,
same time.
just like uphaul everything in my life. Why not? Backdoors for the Clues isn't bad. The fecal matters of Chris Last. Wow. Insecurity by design. Backdoor complaint. Lilo bada boom. Luxury furry road. Open source backdoors. Smokey and the Penguin. That's not bad either. Man, these are some good ones. jbtitles.com.
I tried the MPV.
Whoa, dude, you're getting shot by a machine gun. Watch out. You're getting shot by a machine gun. You better be careful.
Keep the mumble room safe, everyone.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of how, like, the original Phil Zimmer in, like, the 90s with PGP encryption, how that was, like, you can't export this encryption and stuff like that. And they were fighting for that back then.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right? Use Windows for a week? I actually wouldn't do that. You
have some pride.
It would just drive me crazy. The Fecal Matters of Chris Last cannot be our title. I don't think that's a very good title for Linux Unplugged. I don't really think
it's just not accurate. I mean, if that's what the episode was about.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I could definitely do an episode about that. Trust me. I was surprised nobody had any nice parting words in the mumble room to say about Lilo. You know, is solid.
Must really be ready for death, then.
I guess it's just we've all moved on, right? We have all moved on. It is time. And jalapeno ale. Yeah, I do need to do that. You're right, Imacon. You're right. So, Imacon, I'm going to have a camera when we're at our meetup. So, I should probably get this. I got to get this figured out. I need meetup on demand. So basically, I'll just be spawning meetups as I go. So, sign up at meetup.com/Jupiter Broadcasting. Spawning them, Wes. Spawning them.
Coming out everywhere.
I'll just awash in meetups. I don't actually know if that's true or not because US2 has long spots where there's nobody around.
We got to, like, share your location, too. Like a Where's Chris?
Like a beacon.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a JB Road beacon.
Yeah. And get up at 2 a.m, check where Chris is.
I wonder how I would actually practically do that in a way that would actually be doable.
I saw something that used OpenStreetMaps and, like, you could set it up with your phone.
That would be amazing.
Like, you could plot where you were going.
If there's a way to do that and it doesn't cost a bunch of money,
I'll see.
I would totes do it. That'd be fun.
Mumble Room UC2.
Yeah. We'll find out. And then you can follow me as I go. And then if I get stuck on the side of the road, you can alert somebody. Because I might be somewhere there's no cell service. Because how is that going to work if it doesn't have cell service?
Yeah, I assume there'll be some big holes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, car tracker thing. Lilo was
Chris
2
Low
loaders ago.
Lojack.
That's funny, Rikai. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, Lojack. Chris Last Lojack.